Welcome to Odd Man Out, where this week Harrison and I will be trying to convince James here to play the original Fallout.
Now, Fallout 1. So we're talking original release was back in 1997. Okay? And it was released on the Windows platform, and it's very much keyboard and mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay? But this is where everything started. Because where you started playing was Fallout 3.
Fallout 3. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So let me just start out with this kind of like sales pitch. Do you like dungeon crawling?
I'm alright with
like
it, yeah.
Diablos and things like that. Did you like Knights of the Old Republic? Specifically the in-depth sort of RPG style,
to a degree.
Like that. So what if you could have sort of a Diablo-ish kind of dungeon crawler with the depth of RPG control that Knights of the Old Republic had?
I would. That'd be cool.
Okay, so Fallout, the original Fallout, was developed as a spiritual successor to a 1988 game called Wasteland. The idea was that you were navigating a nuclear post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Okay.
And you had this RPG system where you developed a party and you leveled them all up and you equipped them and everything like that. That evolved into the original Fallout, which was based off of this pencil and paper RPG system called GURPS, or a generic universal role-playing system, if I got that right.
Yeah, generic universal role-playing system.
So it's just an overall thing. They originally wanted to do something else, but they ended up switching to this instead.
Right.
They wrote this entire big old Bible about the Fallout universe as you know it, so vaults and super mutants and the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave and all of that was this is where it all kind of originally got started. This is where the storyline kicked off. Mm-hmm. And in the end, you control a lone vault dweller. You can pick up other people and equip them. You do have followers, but you don't have intimate control of their.
So they just follow
stats,
you
really.
and just do their own thing.
Yeah, they follow you and do their own thing.
And you could have actually multiple followers in the original one too.
Yeah.
So you can have like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And they still had dog meat.
Mm-hmm.
They still had.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Some characters that show up in Fallout 3 and subsequent Fallouts actually do call back to characters that were established in the original Fallout.
Right.
So I don't know if you remember a quest. I believe it was Fallout 3. It might have been Fallout New Vegas about Harold and the tree.
Yeah.
I think that was Fallout 3.
Mm-hmm.
So Harold was actually in the original Fallout. Mm-hmm. But he was just a ghoul with a branch growing out of his head at that point. And so Fallout 3 is the logical end of that, where Harold is more the tree than the ghoul by that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you get to equip your minions with weapons?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you get like an inventory that shows what their armor and stuff like that? Like if you hit I or something on dungeon crawlers, it shows you your characters.
I think you have to trade with them, just like you do in like.
And they
Fallout
equip
3.
it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you tell them to equip it. Like
I think you tell them to equip it.
You say like, use the best stuff or use the best melee weapon or things like that.
Cool.
You have to understand the inventory structure in the original Fallout was very simplified. You had a left hand, a right hand, and an armor slot.
Okay.
So you didn't have like this really in-depth armor.
You didn't have like a
structure.
shoulder pad.
Yeah, you just had
jacket.
You had more capable armor. It was never like you had a specialized armor against elemental damage or anything like that. It was just a default ballistic armor quotient.
Right.
The action point structure is still there, just like it was in the following Fallouts. Though I think it was implemented a little bit different in that action points actually covered how far you could move in a combat sense.
Move and shoot.
And accessing your inventory to make changes or pull out a stim pack or something, that took action points. Mm-hmm. So it was very RPG structured, turn-based RPG structured to a sense.
Yeah, this is not first person like the original, or well, for you, Fallout 3 is. This is more like 3/4 isometric field, and basically it's kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics when it comes to the combat situations when you have random encounters and whatnot, or if you end up shooting somebody in town, it goes into a turn-based situation where each person takes their move and it uses action points.
So it's a tactical RPG.
Only the combat.
Okay.
Only the combat.
But things like placement, line of sight, the different types of weapons have ranges or spreads. So you do have some control over the way that you attack. It's all very, very much gunplay and accuracy.
Okay.
And your stats do play a larger role in this because it's not like Fallout 3 where you can actually use a sniper weapon and just have really bad agility or accuracy. It actually is more important in this game for you to have those stats to allow you to actually snipe properly.
Yeah, it is a translation of a role-playing structure.
Yes.
This is basically a pencil and paper translated over like the early attempts at Shadowrun games, where stats were supposed to mean something. The way that you built your character meant something. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Fallout 3, you could be absolutely crappy at gunplay, but have maxed out medicine and speech and walk through the game anyway.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't allocate your stats in some way of making you combat effective, you won't have a good time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now this game, it takes place you start in Vault 13. And you are sent out because there's a water chip that has failed. So you're sent out by the vault, and the lone wanderer has to go find a replacement water chip. You have like 120 or 180 days to locate said water chip to get the water system fixed, or else the vault dies. Mm-hmm. Okay. So after you manage to get the water chip, then you report back to your overseer, who finds out about the super mutants and everything else that's out there. And then you have to go stop the super mutant menace. So then you have to go find the military base. If you do not stop the super mutants within 500 days of gameplay time, then they invade Vault 13 and, kill the people either way. So you have time limits to get everything done in too.
Yeah. So this is all about protecting. Now, you can extend at least a water chip time limit. I know that there's a way you can extend the deadline a little.
Yes.
You have to understand that everywhere you go to, every new town, every place that you can interact with somebody, it's a whole like gaggle of fresh characters and people to talk with. There's wonderful dialogue choices, especially they did maintain this in the later Fallouts like 3 and onward, where if you had a 0 intelligence character or the lowest intelligence possible, you had barely any like coherent speech choices whatsoever. It's actually hilarious to do a playthrough like that. Mm-hmm. And so the thing about it was character customization did affect how the game was played. And on top of that, there was the same problem, the same issue of side quests everywhere you went, and different ways that you could handle them. You could do speech challenges, or you could fight your way out. You could do the evil option or the good option, but there wasn't really much of a karma structure to it. It was just you making your choices and dealing with the consequences of that. Mm-hmm. But these major plot points did stand, that you had to do something about the water trouble in your vault, and then you had to do something about the super mutants about to take over your vault. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, it actually establishes the origin of the super mutants. So if you ever wanted to know how they came about,
that sounds kind of cool.
You would want to play this game and get it to the very end.
Yeah, and the final boss is the Master, who's actually an intelligent super mutant who's making the super mutants. Mm-hmm. And you get to find out about the whole story behind that and why it's being done. And it's just kind of like a walkthrough backstory history when you're playing this game. It is a lot more difficult than the newer Fallouts is now. I mean, you can hit a random encounter that you actually have to run away from, or you end up having to reload because you get your party wiped out. Or you get yourself wiped out too. So there is a lot more things taken to consideration.
And it can be that you could figure out where you need to go and get to the very, very end of that dungeon and find this water chip that you need, and the deadline will tick over as you're trying to make your way back to the town, like during the fast travel back to that town. And when you get back there, the vault's dead, even if you have the water chip.
Yeah,
because you have to really operate inside the deadlines here. So it is an unforgiving game back when games were designed to be unforgiving. And, you did have a save structure, so you could reload and try to do things faster or shave off a little time here or there. But it was a game that did kind of connotate, even if you knew what to do or followed a walkthrough, playing through it with a different build or a different character structure gave you an entirely different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and the speech choices were, I think, a little bit more difficult sometimes in this, again, because harder stats, harder to get additional perks, and, again, base stats were a lot more important in this.
And you didn't really have much chance. Once you set those stats, you didn't have much chance to alter those stats.
Yes.
In the long run.
Yeah, you were kind of stuck with it.
So very unforgiving.
Very, very unforgiving.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're talking, 1997.
Yeah.
This is the challenge of old RPGs, was figuring out the proper way to get through them and understanding that there was more than one way, but that doesn't mean that any way was going to work. Mm-hmm. As opposed to now, where it's basically, with RPGs, typically any way is going to work.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you can piss off a whole town in here and have the entire town trying to attack you.
And they will always be that. and you lose out on any quests or any information from that town. And if it's a town that happens to lead to you finding the chip, and you lose track of that information, there's no way to get it again.
Yeah.
Unless you start over.
Unless you start over.
Yeah,
You have to reload.
Or you luck into that into the next step of information from some other town somewhere. But very impossible.
Okay.
Near impossible to do that.
All right.
Yeah.
So for a game that's almost 20 years old, you can still pick it up on Steam now, or Good Old Games. But on Steam, I think it's about, about $6?
I will look it up while you continue your thing here.
And it has, a long amount of playtime with it.
Okay.
So it is something that does take a while.
Fallout and Fallout 2, which is another game from the situation, of course, are both $10.
Okay.
Each or
on
total?
Steam. $10 each on Steam.
Okay.
And I believe on GOG they're probably going to be the same price.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for $10, you get to fill in your backstory, have a game you get that is difficult, long to play. Has a little bit more of a classic feel to it because
it is amazingly a long play.
Because you're looking at simplified graphics. Because like I said, 3/4 overhead view type isometric. Walk along the ground, keyboard, mouse.
Yeah.
Setup. So.
I would try it.
Okay, you would try it?
I would try it.
You give it a shot?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just to clarify, on GOG, it is again $10, $9.99, but the full series is in a pack for $29.97. So that's Fallout Tactics, Fallout, and Fallout 2.
Not bad.
Yeah.
My birthday is coming up soon.
So you'd want this for your birthday? Would you play this game?
I would play that game.
You would play this game?
But I'd prefer the other game more, the one with the planets.
Okay.
Just saying. Summon up soon.
Okay. Well, that's it for Odd Man Out.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, if you like seeing this, you want to see more, send us suggestions, comments. Let us know that we're keeping you entertained out there. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. It's not. I say it's a tech tree. What it is levels of armor and weaponry. And when you get further in, magical spells.